This podcast is brought to you by Parentaly, a comprehensive parental leave support program. Ever notice how every time someone goes on parental leave, it's hard to figure out how to cover their work? Do you bring in a backfill? What happens to the most important projects? How do you avoid overburdening everyone else by asking them to take on all of the work? And then for managers, how are they going to hit their goals when they have folks out on leave? And then, when employees return to work after parental leave, how do you re-onboard them in a way that sets them and their teams up for success and also supports the business? These are just some of the critical parts of parental leave transitions that Parentaly tackles. Research shows that paid parental leave is good for individuals and smart for business, but it can backfire with attrition, disruption, and burnout for teams. Parentaly provides a coaching program for employees and manager training for people leaders, driving business continuity through parental leave. If you think your company could benefit from our support, reach out to us. Visit www.parentaly.com or get in touch at hello@parentaly.com to learn more about our programs.
I'm Allison Whalen, and you're listening to The False Trade-Off, a podcast for working parents, HR leaders, and anyone who is committed to proving that working parents can be successful at work and at home, and that it's not an either-or trade-off. Each week, we'll dive into some of the most challenging, complex, and sometimes controversial topics related to parental leave and navigating life as a working parent. Because in order to break the false trade-off, we need to address these topics head-on.
PwC Canada knows that the family building years are one of the most important times in a person's life. They also know that it can present career challenges for 3 key reasons. Transitioning in and out of the workplace can be overwhelming. People worry about the impact of taking time away from work on their career progression, and each person's access to support and their support needs are unique. To get ahead of these challenges, PwC Canada made the parental leave journey a core part of their people strategy, expanding benefits, streamlining resources, and providing structured support for both parents and managers. Their goals were clear: retain top talent, advance gender equity, and ensure an inclusive experience for all parents. In 2023, we began working with PwC Canada to bring this vision to life, launching career coaching programs and manager training programs that have since supported hundreds of staff members. By embedding parental leave support into their broader people strategy, they've not only improved retention and engagement, they've also ensured that every employee, regardless of gender, position, or seniority, has the support they need to navigate this transition with confidence. In today's episode, Chief People Officer Sonia Boisvert and Total Rewards and Wellbeing Leader Lisa Rosen share PwC Canada's approach to supporting parents. They break down why the Parentaly program has been a game changer and the significant ROI they've seen as a result. They also share a framework for HR leaders on how to make the case for investing in parents and caregivers, something they believe is a win for both employees and businesses. Enjoy the episode.
Hi, Sonia and Lisa. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I have been so looking forward to this conversation because I've had the pleasure of working with both of you as well as your broader team for a few years now, and have had a front row seat to both, I would say, the specificity and the passion and enthusiasm that you have put into developing not only how you support your parent employees, but also all employees. You have a big mandate here. Our conversation today will be focused mostly on parental leave and parents more broadly, but I did want to call out that I've just been so impressed with all of the work you've done. And maybe to set the stage, I was hoping we could start with Sonia sharing a little bit more about where this all comes from. What is PwC Canada's people value proposition, and how does that directly align to your core business strategy?
Thank you, Allison. I will say that our people value proposition is all about creating and maintaining an inclusive and caring environment where everyone can build a meaningful careers. It is a key part of our strategy to keep and attract top talent, giving our people a sense of pride and belonging, and ensure we stay competitive in the talent market. In essence, our PVP encompasses all our efforts to make sure our workplace is a place where people feel valued, supported, and motivated to do their best at work.
I love that. How would you say then our partnership, the Parentaly program, fits into that broader value prop?
The value prop for us is really understanding that everyone has a unique circumstances and priorities, especially when it comes to significant life moments like adding a new person in your family. This is one of the most important times in a person's life, and we want to make sure our employees feel supported in their moment that matters. Retaining for us is a key part of our strategy, and we know that the family building years can be very challenging. Historically, this is a time when women might choose to leave the workforce or take a step back on their careers, especially in high-performance organizations like PwC Canada. Offering support through a one-on-one coaching for expecting and new parents to help them for this milestone, both personally and professionally, was so important for us. Also, the manager training is crucial. We want to equip our leaders with the skills to support expecting parents before, during, and after a leave. This includes knowing how to support the broader team as work gets reallocated. And when a parent returns to work, we want them to feel welcome back by a leader who understands the challenge they may face and is supportive of their reintegration.
I love that. I want to take a step back a little bit because what's so interesting is, we've been doing this parental leave work at Parentaly for a very long time. Very rarely do we speak to a company that already knows how incredibly important this moment is and how you need to put real attention to this parental leave transition. We're going to get into a little bit of what your team and specifically Lisa, when you spearheaded the work to find a partner for this, but I want to even start before that, which is what was the motivation for you to go out and seek a partner? Because you had other options. You could have attempted to build something in-house, which you have done a lot building in-house. And I know from personal experience, you do build a lot of really incredible things in-house. What was your motivation to find a parental leave partner?
It's such a great question. And I think I want to start by saying that the leave solution and the coaching solution was just one part of our broader strategy to reimagine our parental leave experience and the family building experience at PwC. So the first thing we needed to do was define our business problem. What was the problem we wanted to solve? And for us, that was we wanted to retain top talent, and we also wanted gender balance in our organization. So we knew that we would need a firm-wide and a really holistic approach to how we were going to approach parental leaves. And it needed to align, like Sonia said, with our people value proposition, our values, and our value of care, which is a really important value at PwC, and then also a broader inclusion and belonging approach. So once we knew, okay, that's the business problem we're trying to solve, then we took a step back and said, what are the challenges and barriers that parents face, right? And so through conversations and through research, we identified several. They are: one, transitioning in and out of the workforce can be overwhelming. It's difficult for parents to balance that caregiving and their workload and their career. And this can lead to people, primarily women, leaving the workforce. And so we don't want that to happen. We also have the broader societal perceptions around gender norms, both, as I said, societal, but also within the firm. And that can result in penalties or career impacts for people who take a leave. So things like, your performance, your salary, how you progress, for example. And then, of course, we also need to look at other factors like intersectionality. So how does that impact people from different ethnicities? How does that impact sexual orientation or disability? So all of that together. So now we know business problem, barriers and challenges. So next step was to set priorities, and we set 6. So for your American listeners, in Canada, we have maternity leave benefits that are funded through our government. They can provide up to 15 weeks of financial assistance for parents who are pregnant or recently giving birth. And then we have parental leave benefits for an additional 40 weeks or sometimes 69 if you extend them. And those are shared benefits between two parents. And so we'd previously at PwC topped up birth parents. So you're receiving that government funding, we top you up to 100%. So the first thing we did was expand that. And we expanded that to all parents, so regardless of gender and non-birthing parents. We created a parenting hub on our website where we pulled everything together because people had trouble finding things. And that was a massive change.
Which, by the way, is amazing. I've seen it. And when I saw it, my jaw dropped. So kudos to you because it is incredible.
Allison, it's actually mind-boggling what an impact it has had and the number and reduction of questions that people have. Like now people know what to do and where to go. It's amazing. And on there, what made it amazing was we created these clear action items and guidance for both those leave takers, but also their managers at every phase of the leave. So before leave, during leave, return from leave. We also updated our emergency care benefit. So this is a benefit we have where it's an emergency childcare benefit. So let's say your child goes to daycare and there's a flood, or you have they go to home daycare and your daycare provider is ill. We have a benefit that supports that when there's unexpected, challenges. And then of course, partnering with an external vendor for the leave approach. And I would be remiss not to mention that we also have an inclusion network. So we have an inclusion network for families that we tap into as well.
And that's really helpful context because at the time you had a competitive process to try and find this partner to do the very specific piece that Parentaly does. But it is important, you're right, that Parentaly is not the solution, right? There's all sorts of ways that companies need to be thinking about this. And I would even add to that I love that you highlighted the policy piece because I think oftentimes companies, talk to us like we have a great solution, but we can't do it all. And it includes the culture, the policy, the surrounding benefits. And then once you're able to sort of wrap those together, it creates this just incredible holistic support. So thank you for calling that out. When you looked at the specific piece that Parentaly does, what were the things that you were looking for in a partner? Because you do actually have coaches in-house. I know it's different than the type of coaching we do, but this is something that I get asked all the time from specifically professional services firms, which is we have internal career coaches, we have internal coaches, we have a mentor program, we have ERGs. Why did you feel like you needed to select, another partner? And what was it specifically about Parentaly that you thought, yes, we need to partner with them?
Yeah, another really great question. So there are a few things that stood out about Parentaly specifically. And I'll be honest, as we went into this search process, we spoke with a lot of organizations and people did different things, right? And so, there are different models that people use. And what we really liked about Parentaly were three things. The first was the one-on-one coaching approach, because as Sonia said earlier, we know that people's concerns are unique to them, and having that safe space and ability to really be one-on-one with someone was really important. And we felt that would resonate best with our people. Secondly, your program focused on all parents, not just mothers. And that aligned with our vision because, as I've said, non-birthing parents are super important, a key factor. And in fact, we recently signed a paternity leave pledge with one of our partner organizations, Women in Capital Markets, because we know that the role of fathers and non-birthing parents really has a huge impact on new mothers, right? And their workload and their career. And then finally, and this was really where you stood out, was in terms of your focus on planning the actual work, right? And so things like who's going to manage your client when you're away, that really resonated with us as a professional service firm because our people are really ambitious and high performing. And many have a very clear sense of where they want to take their career and their path to promotion, their path to partnership. And they're worried about that impact of taking a parental leave. They don't want it to impact their career growth. And so it can be very hard for people to step away. They care very deeply about their clients, right? They're really embedded in their client's business. And so to step away for a full year, which is the norm in Canada for women in particular, that can be very, very hard. And so your program had this structured methodology for how to organize and plan for that leave, both for the person who's taking the leave, but also like for the managers as well and the leaders. So this really relieves a lot of anxiety for our people. And really, bottom line, we felt like you understood our organization and our people and what they needed. So that was why you were
Thank
successful.
you. I'm like, keep going, Lisa. Give me more. No, this is amazing. No, and I appreciate that, because I think that oftentimes, and it's not super obvious who should do what sometimes, of what is the project leader's role or the internal coach, or, and I think that one of the things that we've gained more conviction on over the years is that we can be this neutral person that helps almost conduct it, right? So like there are certain conversations that have to happen internally within the organization, but you can also have this safe space to come and ask the toughest questions that, quite frankly, are usually the reasons why people may leave. They don't maybe want to talk about it with a coworker. And so I do think that it becomes actually really fun when we work with an organization like PwC Canada, where you do have a lot of other resources, and it's not just on us, but we can serve as that sort of hub of security to sort of like navigate the experience.
Alison, may I add something into that? I will say that fact also, like what we wanted to present to our people is that, to your point, we have a good coaching at PwC, a good coaching community. However, because of the uniqueness of that leave and the importance of that moment, we wanted to tell our people, they are expert in that coaching. You can like really take benefit of what they're telling you, and the fact that, to your point, you are external, they open up even more. Then I feel like for us was really also something that we were looking for. The fact that it was external, but the fact also that you were expert on this particular matter. For us, it was a big differentiator.
You know what, Sonia, I'm going to jump into, because you remind me of something that I didn't think about earlier, but very much resonated with us, which is that you also were very willing to work with us to design a program that worked for our organization. So that co-creation was really exciting. It didn't feel like although you have a very structured program, it didn't feel out of the box. Like we were able to work together to find what would work for our people. And in fact, innovate since we have launched, right?
Yeah.
We've made changes to make it work even better.
Yeah. And I think what's so tough about parental leave is it is really most people's most vulnerable career transition. It is a career milestone, but it's also a life milestone. And I think sometimes people don't know. It's so hard to unwind that sometimes. And so if we can come in and people don't need to worry, is this a thing I should talk to this person about or not? No, you can talk to us about any of this because we've seen it all. We've seen every walk of life, every person, every level of seniority. And if we're not the right person to address this, we can tell you who within your organization is. So I think that it's a very nuanced way to sort of think about this experience. Sonia, how do you know, we started off in a pilot capacity. So you thought we would be great. We could have just been selling the dream. How do you then know that this is a success? What are you looking at?
We have been conducting several surveys to understand how different groups within our organization feel about various aspects of their work life. One of the key questions we ask is whether people identify as parents. This helps us track how our parenting strategy is impacting their experience. After we update our parent strategy, we saw some really positive trends right away. People's perception of taking a leave improved significantly. This year, we took a step further and we asked everyone who took any type of leave whether they felt it was career limiting. The results were clear. Parents don't feel that taking a leave of absence is as career limiting as non-parents do. That's not all, I will say, Alison. Our engagement survey also shown that parents are generally more positive than non-parents across all topics we covered. And these positive trends for parents have continued to other surveys as well. It's really great to see that our efforts are making a real difference in the employee experience for parents. We'll keep working to ensure that everyone feels supported and valued in our organization, that's for sure.
That's amazing, because I think if you look at sort of the broader society and ask people that question, I do think, and I feel very strongly that we have to change this narrative that being a parent is not career limiting, that it introduces new competitive advantages, it makes you more efficient. But that's a fun thing to talk about. It's a totally different thing to have data showing that people actually believe that. And I think that you sharing that data and those stories are really important, because that is how, especially for people who are not yet parents, but who are thinking about it. I mean, this is a big thing that I know people in that stage of their life are looking at. Where can I work where I can move into that and not give up on my career? It's something that all of my friends and I have gone through. I'm sure you've seen this yourself as well. So I think that is just huge. So that data is amazing. There's also stories. And that's the part that I mean, it makes my job the most fun, is like, yes, I see the data about how great this support is, but there are always these stories that just sort of hit you to your core. I'm curious if do you know anyone personally that has gone through Parentaly, who's gone through this transition? What are the things that you've heard that have really made you think like, wow, I'm so glad that we made this overall change, not just Parentaly, but just all of the work that you've done within the parenting space?
Yes, thank you, Alison. It's a great question. And I'm doing a lot of one-on-one feedback with our people across the country. And we get both very great feedback from a coaching and also the manager training component that you deliver. From a coaching, we have heard that the training has really helped our people prepare for the leaves and feel confident about returning to work while also being able to share thoughts and feeling on becoming a parent. Few example maybe you will love is one first-time mother was concerned about how parental leave will affect her career, but her Parentaly coach supported her in finding the right language and gave her some courage to have the conversations she needs with her leaders. These conversations made her feel reassured, and she left on leave with confidence about her future. For me, this is a big win.
I love that.
A director and first-time father said the Parentaly coaching program was a game changer for him. The personalized one-on-one sessions with his mentor addressed all his concerns about maintaining his performance at work, which led him really get excited about becoming a new parent. He shared that the resources made the preparation process smooth and stress-free. Having a supportive mentor to share his journey would boost his confidence in taking time away from work to focus on his family. Isn't that amazing?
I love that.
I love it too. When I do the one-on-one and I get those feedback, I'm very pleased, because this is exactly why we're doing that. This is the reason of why we're doing all this, and with passion.
And I have a few stories, or a story to share about our manager coaching as well. And what I'd say is that the most common piece of feedback we take from people who go through the manager feedback is, I wish this had existed when I went on my leave, right? And so for me, that really resonates, because it's people saying like, hey, this is amazing. I didn't have this. I'm grateful that you are providing this for the people that I lead now. And of course, they also share they feel much better prepared to support their members, their staff members. And what they tell us is they really appreciate the clear direction on when do I have the conversation? What exactly should I ask? It really demystifies their role in the process. And, people are always nervous about saying the wrong thing. And so people's instincts around when they don't know what to say is to do nothing. And so you have this silence where people don't feel supported. And so if there's one thing the manager training does, is it empowers people to have those conversations and be less anxious about saying something, it means that people say something, and
Right.
that is a huge deal. Yeah.
You know, and you're making me realize we've barely even talked about the manager training. And I think this is something that the most common question I get about the manager training is, well, do managers even want that? Because the idea of manager training, I think sometimes gets a bad reputation of like, it's a thing that someone is forced to do. And I think what you're highlighting is, yes, because I really think most managers really want to do a good job. They want to be supportive. And I have consistently been shocked how many people show up to manager trainings across all of our clients. The questions that they ask, how thoughtful they are, the feedback they give, that finally I know what I should be saying and how to say it in a way that is appropriate. And so I love that you've brought those examples up, because I think sometimes I'm guilty of this, where the manager training is sort of a fraction of what we do. And so I don't focus on it. But it is actually really incredibly important, because back to our earlier conversation, the Parentaly coach is not the be all end all. The managers have to show up and be supportive. They want to be. So how do we just give them a little bit of support and language to do that? So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you, and then we're going to move on to not just talking about Parentaly for 2 final questions. But before we do that, if you had to sum up the Parentaly and PwC Canada partnership value prop in 1 sentence, how would you describe that value?
I can have a shot at it, Alison. I think that for me, parental coaching extends our care value by offering personalized support that reflects our commitment to new parents.
Great job. Lisa.
Oh gosh, me?
Were you not expecting it?
I would echo Sonia, really. But maybe what I would say is that Parentaly extends our well-being strategy directly to parents. So fits in very, very well with our broader strategy of well-being for everyone at PwC.
Amazing. Okay, I'm going to ask 2 more questions that are not specifically about parental leave, but I'm curious because I know a lot of other HR listeners will want to hear the answer to these questions. The first is, how do you keep a pulse on what your staff members and employees need?
We have probably a different answer to that, me and Lisa. Lisa will start and you can add more. But I will say as Chief People Officer, as I said, I have a number of sessions across all of our Canadian offices. And I'm doing what I call listening tours. That's give me the opportunity to hear from our people, what is working for them, what we can do better, and also host one-on-one session and keep always an open door policy so our people know they can come to me at any time. The other aspect is we are having a lot of surveys. Some people will say maybe too much, but I will say we survey a lot. We survey at least once a year. All our people, but also on a monthly basis as well, just to make sure the benefit of that. Then I will say through those listening tour, one-on-one, as well as the survey, we get really great insight if the initiative that we are looking at or making in action is working or not. And people love it, and we need to continue to do it or stop doing it.
Yeah, and I think what I would answer is just if you zoom out a little bit further, for me, like this is really where I feel in my role I can make the biggest difference and impact on our people and on our firm. So in addition to everything Sonia mentioned, I really like to focus on relationships and engaging with thought leaders in the space. So outside of the organization, both in the benefit space, the well-being space. I read a lot of thought leadership. I read a lot of industry publications, research studies, white papers, because my goal as a well-being leader is to always be like a few years ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And
she's doing that very well, by the way.
I was going to say, I've picked up on that.
Oh, yeah. She's doing magnific job with that.
So one of the things that helps me is that the UK and Australia tend to be ahead of North America. So keeping a pulse on what's happening there is a really good barometer. And something I would encourage North American well-being leaders to consider is look at what's happening in Europe and in Australia to set sort of some of the trends.
That is fantastic advice. And I love the sort of internal focus on what are people saying they want and need, and then also keeping a pulse on what others are doing, because then you can come together and match those two really well. Last question to close us out is, what would your advice be to other HR leaders that maybe now are starting to sense that they have this need to better support the parental leave experience?
Yeah, I'll answer that question. And I hope it's not going to be too repetitive to what I shared about our own process. But it really is a formula that you can repeat over and over again that works super well. So first, identify the problem you're trying to solve and how it fits into your broader strategy. So for parental leave, is it about talent attraction? Is it about being a top employer or an employer of choice? Are you trying to address attrition? Maybe it's all three. So set what is your problem that you're trying to solve. Then to guide you, you need to collect data about your people, right? What are you measuring? Set what do you need to measure? So there's lots of available data then you can about the cost of labor, the cost of replacing people, the cost of women leaving the organization. You want to take that broader information and then you want to match it with your own workforce. So what's your gender split in your organization at senior levels of your organization? Do you know where your broken rung is? So broken rung is a concept where you may have at your more junior levels, like a 50-50 male-female split. And then, but your senior leadership may not be. So where does that shift, right? And that helps you focus. And you may find that it's correlated to your family building years. And if it is, that signals an issue. So then you take that quantitative feedback, and then you look at your qualitative feedback, which is what Sonia's been talking about in terms of the conversations, the surveys. And then once you understand that landscape, you want to define how you're going to measure success. Once you do that, you'll be better positioned to articulate the issue to your senior leaders. You'll be able to demonstrate your return on investment for a parental leave coaching program. And that will set the stage for getting the buy-in from senior leaders.
I love that. I think that was the perfect way to close this out, because it was a very concise and direct summary of the process that you used that I really do think is applicable to any company of any size to be able to do that. Thank you both so much for being with me here today. I have had just the best time, and I know I speak for my whole team working with you all. It is so fun to work with humans that care so deeply about this and also have a really high bar on what the end results are. Like, we want to get the process right, but at the end of the day, we need to make sure that every piece to this machine is working in a way that, like you showed, Sonia, your employees are saying, this is a great place to work for parents. And at the end of the day, there's many different ways to get there. This is the way that you get there. I think it works very well. Of course, I'm very biased. I think this is the great way to do it. But at the end of the day, it's all about the end result that you have been able to achieve. So thank you so much for bringing us along, explaining that journey and giving us more insight into how you've built this at PwC Canada.
It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Allison. It's been so great working with you and with Parentaly. So thank you for all you do to support our people as well.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The False Trade-Off. Make sure to subscribe if you like what you heard, and give us a follow on LinkedIn to continue the conversation on all things working parenthood and parental leave. Is there a topic you'd love us to cover in a future episode? Drop us an email at hello@parentaly.com. And if you're looking for support on preparing for parental leave, head over to www.parentaly.com. We have checklists, guides, and other free resources to help you make the experience a little bit easier. That's PARENTALY.com.